Mexico. Now, let's say the plane is a rectangle. Nose to tail, it's about 209 feet. And wingtip to wingtip, it's 200 feet. So the square footage of a 777 is about 41,800 square feet. So to make this simpler, let's scale it down using mathematics and algebra. If the search area was, say, the Empire State Building, it's roughly like finding your wallet somewhere in the skyscraper. Or let's say that search area is a football field. Then it's like finding a pencil eraser. Finally, to put this back in terms of water, let's consider that the search area is the same as an Olympic swimming pool. Then it would be like trying to find a large grain of rice somewhere in that water. Add darkness and ocean currents, and actually it's nothing like finding a needle in a haystack. It's much more difficult.
So Mr. Quest.
Yes.
He joins the slide. That's him right there.
Can't we go back? Back to the days of trolling for fish rather than trolling for a plane. Ginny Mo, CNN, New York.
Due to the damage they sustained during the impact. But, based on the detections that we picked up over the weekend, I would believe that those pingers are still active.
And obviously you want to give every chance possible to hear any pings that are still going.
Look, Don, I'm going to come back to you on this.
No.
Don, it's too simplistic. Look, we spoke the other day.
But that's why we're here. That's why we're here, Mikey.
Let me.
With all due respect, that's why we're here to break down different crash scenarios. Many people are wondering if a plane landed on the ocean, where's the debris? So what happens with a nosedive?
The two scenarios we need to be looking at, as we spoke
What
to Marty
happens,
and Mitch,
Mikey, with a nosedive?
powered on or powered off.
Okay, either
That's
one.
the reality.
Okay, so
And we've
nosedive,
spoken with
what
the
happens?
guys on the simulator. The pilots would not let a scenario occur where they were just going to run out of fuel and then they make an uncontrolled approach.
Okay.
So the reality is that if they were in this part of the world, they didn't have a diversion, they couldn't make land, they were going to make an approach with power on. And I think that's important because with power on, you can drop the flaps, you can drop the gear, and you can slow the aircraft
Pilots
down.
are not in control of the aircraft. Let's say they're incapacitated. Do we know what type of landing? Could it be a nosedive landing?
It could be.
Okay,
It
so
could be.
what happens with a nosedive landing?
Well, it's going to be a hard impact. As we've already heard, I think when we spoke to BF yesterday, the chap who did the Titanic, it's like cement. The water is like cement. We must get away from this notion that landing on water is going to be soft and all the rest of it. It's not. It's going to be like landing on cement. So a nosedive is just like going into tarmac.
And that is going to cause debris to scatter
Complete
everywhere.
fragmentation.
Okay, so then if it breaks apart in midair, that's going to give you the widest area of debris, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what happens? Breaking apart in
Depending
midair.
on the speed, depending on the altitude, the higher the aircraft is, the faster the aircraft is. If it's going to start fragmenting, you're obviously going to get a greater spread area of the debris over the ocean.
Okay, so landing on top of the water, we were talking about the Sully Sullenberger type of landing or wreckage. What would that look like underwater? Because chances are in the ocean, it's so volatile, right? You're not going to have this kind of landing that we're looking at right there.
No, and we saw from the Miracle of the Hudson, we've looked at this a few times, is that, it's completely intact. And when it sinks, it will be pretty much intact. And that debris field will be very close.
Christina's laughing. That's because this is how we talk when we hang out after the show. So what is it bound to look like on the bottom of the ocean, this debris?
Well, I think I'm going to have to agree with you on this. I know.
At least, I'm going to let him finish, but I wanted to go through the scenarios, and then we can go through what you're saying. But what would the debris look like if in any of these sites after this?
Well,
after a couple of weeks down there?
It could also be a large debris field, depending on how this plane came down. Either way, you may have a fairly large section of that fuselage that is intact and lying at 15,000 feet. You could also have very scattered debris field depending on impact. If it broke apart, there are parts of it. We don't have a debris field topside, which everybody is wondering
the debris is down there, how long does it take before the silt covers it? That sort of thing.
That would take, at this point, it wouldn't happen in a month. You don't have currents down there, so anything that has fallen is going to be pretty much where it lays at this point.
Now, here you go, Mikey K. So I'm doing that because we're answering viewers' questions. But you're saying the chances are we have to look at what the investigators are saying. So go on now, Nick.
I just think, Don, we've been doing so much analysis on this, and we go back to where the transponder was, and we look at the nature of the route. We kind of have an idea. We don't know it indefinitely. But if there was going to be an explosion at altitude that would suggest a terrorist bomb or something like that, it's not going to happen at the physical outer limits of endurance of the aeroplane. We have to listen to what evidence we've got. And at the moment, it suggests that the pings and all the other analysis, the aircraft continued to the point where most likely it ran out of fuel or it was at the limits of its endurance. That's why we're in that search area. So what I want to do is just talk about the possibilities of that scenario rather than covering a million different scenarios when we know we can zone in on
as I said,
something.
we're talking about viewers.
I agree.
Questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What else? Anything else?
No. So again, it just goes back to the most likely scenario would be and I thought this was a brilliant point that was brought out by Marty and Mitch, a powered-on approach.